Hey everybody, how's it going? Man, it's good to be back on the road again and doing what I like to do. I'm in Miami right now, so I'm going to jump right into the do's and don'ts from before you even leave the country, whatever country you're in. The first one is you should go on your country's embassy website and register with the website. I mean, after all, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to hide from. Go ahead, register on the website, and what you'll start doing is you'll start getting alerts and that sort of thing from your embassy. Like, for example, if you're traveling all around the country, then you'll get alerts for forest fires, earthquakes, riots, that sort of thing. The second thing I want you to do is go on the Colombian website, and I'm going to put an address right here, and you have to register with the Colombian government. Now, all the other times I've gone to Colombia, I've never had to do this before, but I've flown with Delta. This time I show up at the airport, and I like to show up at the airport at least 3 hours early. I show up at the airport, and they tell me I gotta fill out a country entry request. And it was in Spanish. And I tell you what, I was freaking out. So go to this website 72 hours before you depart for Colombia and fill out this form. It's so easy to fill out, and it's so basic. They just ask for your address and where you're going to be and what you're doing. But American Airlines wouldn't let me on the plane to come to Colombia. I've never been asked for this thing before at all. Okay, let me also just take the time to mention this, and a lot of people don't realize it. Do's and don'ts are all relative. I mean, Colombia is 1.7 times the size of Texas. It is the size of Texas and California combined. So if you were to lay Colombia over Europe, it would cover a good portion of Western Europe. And think of all those countries and cultures in Western Europe that are just so completely different. So when you go to Colombia, understand that the distances in Colombia are somewhat vast. And so you cannot take that for granted. Fourth, you're going to want to choose your traveling companions wisely. And so just kind of think it through and vet to yourself who you really want to travel with. Take a power strip, not only for the airport and for when you're traveling, but most of the plugs or most of the outlets in Cartagena are not going to support a whole bunch of equipment. You know, one of the best things you can do, and it seems like such a small thing, is get a seat as far forward of the airplane as you can get, so you will get out of that plane and get into customs quickly. I was number 11 in line when I hit customs. By the time I finally got served, it was a complete cluster. I mean, lines seemed to form on their own. People decide right next to me that they were going to create a line. It's not worth it. It is worth the little bit of money that you're going to pay to get a good seat on the plane. Now, this is a very Spanish country, and when you visit Cartagena and Colombia writ large, understand you're not visiting some smaller version of the United States or Europe. This is an autonomous Spanish-speaking country with its own currency. You need to familiarize yourself with both before you come if you want to make your visit smoother. Now, let me explain briefly some of the geopolitical aspects of this country that may just make your visit a lot less stressful when it comes to vendors. For example, this year alone, 500,000 Venezuelans will transit through Colombia. Many of them will stop in Cartagena. You'll have about another 250,000 internally displaced people still displaced from the civil wars in Colombia. Ecuador has recently kicked off, so you're going to probably have about 250,000 people, if not more, departing Ecuador. Some of them will stop in Bogota, some of them will stop in Cartagena, some of them will stop in Medellin. Not only that, you have a huge amount of people coming from Haiti and from the African continent. Many of them stop
in Cartagena. The reason why is they're all trying to get some more money while they work in either Bogota, Medellin, or Cartagena, or Barranquilla, before they make their attempt through the Darien Gap and on through Central America, through Mexico, and attempt to get asylum in the United States. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that understand that Cartagena is a vibrant, bustling city. And it just may help you understand a little bit all the vending that's going on there. Anybody that does not have a Colombian citizenship card can be an informal vendor. Now, taking into account that this is a tourist-heavy city, Cartagena is not Paella and it's not Bogota or one of the other small towns in Colombia or large cities in Colombia. It is quintessentially a tourist-heavy city. And the prices reflect that in Cartagena. Cartagena is relatively more expensive than the other cities in Colombia. Keep in mind, you're supporting a tourist economy in that city. Expect to be entertained either voluntarily or involuntarily by buskers, vendors, and rappers. And while we're at it, let's spend a little time talking about the rapper. In all the other videos I've seen, people have said, oh, just ignore the rappers. They'll leave you alone. Just ignore them. Act like you don't see them. Well, you know me? I encouraged them. I mean, it only cost me $1. You know, 2,000 Colombian pesos, 3,000, 4,000. I would just give them a 5. That's all of about $1.25. And what I would do is I would probably pick 2 or 3 rappers. I would encourage them. Keep in mind, they're probably illegal migrants from Venezuela trying to make some money. That's all they're trying to do. They are not going to harm you. They are not going to molest you, unless, of course, you count following you and rapping to you molestation. But you're in no physical harm whatsoever. These are just young men and women trying to make a buck the best way they can so they can eat. So what I was doing was I'd be like, okay, give me your best stuff. Okay, here's a buck. Everybody's happy, okay? Now, you're going to also hear that cash is king in Cartagena and Colombia, and that this is a cash economy. Well, this is not entirely true. I took 2 credit cards with me, a USAA MasterCard, because I use that for my ATMs, and an American Airlines Visa, which gives me frequent flyer miles. The rest I took in cash, but I only took about $300 in cash with me that I got from Bank of America. I did an exchange because that's where you're going to get your best exchange rate. Okay. Here's what the money situation looks like in Cartagena. It is not solely a cash is king. I mean, maybe if you're a backpacker and you're trying to live off of $5 a day, then all you're going to eat at is places that don't take credit cards. And nothing against backpackers living off of $5 a day. I think that's a cool way to go. But I'm a little bit long in the tooth to be living like that. So what I would tell you is you've got to decide how you want to manage your exchange rates. So let me talk about the exchange rates a little bit and the decisions you may need to make. If you go to the bank and exchange your money before you come to Colombia, then you'll get Colombian pesos before you come here and you'll get your best exchange rate. If you purchase COPs, Colombian pesos, in the airport, you will get totally ripped off. If you go to the ATMs in the country, you will pay about 8 cents on every dollar on top of the surcharge, which means that you will pay about an extra $20 for every 1 million Colombian pesos you purchase at ATMs. The reason, I don't know what the reason is for that. They just want to make money. What that really equates to is, you know, 1 million Colombian pesos, that's somewhere around $260. You have to pay an extra $20. It's worth it for me to pay the extra $20 for every $260 I take out. 1, $260 goes far. And 2, I'm not carrying a bunch of cash around with me and I'm all paranoid about, you know, will the Airbnb staff or the hotel staff, or will I get it, you know, will I get drunk and lose it out on the street? I just go to the ATM. You know, generally speaking, in about a 2-week period, I usually end up going to the ATM about 5 times. So that's about $100 to pay the ATMs to hold on to my cash safely. I don't think that's, me personally, I don't think that's a big deal. You can also go to the cash exchanges and they give you the same exchange rate as you get at the ATMs. So personally, this is what I did. I got a little bit of cash in the United States before I came. I then just started using ATMs, and one time I went to a cash exchange, and it takes away all the worrying that you're going to try to save by carrying around a bunch of cash. Okay, with that, I strongly recommend you don't use the ATMs at night. That's just drama waiting to happen. Now that is where you hear about Cartagena not being safe. But I will say this. Cartagena in the walled city, Cartagena in Boca Grande, in Manga, it is very safe. I got to tell you, I have never been in a city in the United States where the everyday police presence was so heavy than I have been in Cartagena. And a lot of cops make for a lot of safety. So some of those videos you'll see, I think they're just hyperbole, in my personal opinion, as of this date. Okay? Another thing you may want to consider is there are 2 things that are gonna get you in trouble. Let me talk about the first thing. First thing is people trying to be cheap. You'll get into trouble if you get an Airbnb in a sketchy neighborhood. And I have a video coming out, it's out by the time you see this, about the 7 neighborhoods in Cartagena that you need to know about. People will also take a taxi trying to save money, or you'll eat at an inexpensive seafood restaurant that's out by the beach, and you might end up getting cholera or something. So I have personally found that everything in Cartagena that is particularly cheap is wrapped around an unanticipated expense. So my advice to people is, it's okay to save money, but don't be cheap at the risk of your health. Now, the second thing that gets people into trouble. Prostitution is legal in Colombia. Okay? Now, for some reason, especially you men out there and some of you women, you're going to come here to Colombia, and for some ungodly reason, after women not paying attention to you for your entire life, somehow you're going to believe that these women here love you. Well, let me tell you this. Be gone, woman! Be gone, you vassal of love and desire! But, on the other hand, prostitution is legal, and you should treat the prostitutes with respect. I hate it when the ugly Americans come here. First of all, a lot of the prostitutes are illegal Venezuelan migrants, okay? These people have been through some gosh darn ungodly crimes to their bodies already. They don't come to Colombia saying, wow, I want to be a prostitute. No, it's a matter of survival. It's a matter of sending money home so their family can feed, so their family can eat. It's all that. So here's what I would say. They will not molest you. They will not grab on you. They will not bother you. But if you come like the proverbial ugly American or ugly European and you start grabbing ass and talking down to them and stuff, trust me, you're going to get more than you bargained for. So those are the 2 things. Okay, as a corollary to that, I would recommend you don't use the dating apps. I mean, the dating apps are so dangerous that it even came out on the embassy alerts not to use the dating apps. And I got to tell you, in Colombia, now, you know, I'm out of the game, so what do I know? But I would tell you this. Back in my day, Back in my day, if you have to use a dating app in Colombia, then man, you are pitiful. Because there are plenty of people to meet. People will be open to you as long as you're respectful. And if you're using a dating app, you're going to end up getting scopomined. And like I said, every cheap thing is wrapped around an unintended expense. The next thing I would say is Uber yes, taxis no. You're going to hear this on other videos, and it's a very basic piece of advice that's worth repeating. If you're forced to use a taxi, make sure you work out the price exactly to where you will be going before you get in the taxi. And even with this, it's possible that you could get kidnapped in a taxi at night, especially if you're by yourself. The best way to handle the taxis during the day, pull up the Uber price, show the taxi the Uber price, and then don't go above that. If they want to go above that, get you another one. Again, let me tell you something. Here's a real life horror story that I went through. Taxi driver, he gave me a pretty good deal to this one bar. Then he says, do you want me to stay out here and wait for you? And I was like, no, go ahead, do what you gotta do. And the bar was kind of far out. But then he said, 100,000 an hour. And I'm like, wow. But it was 2 o'clock in the morning. See, nothing good happens after 12 o'clock. And I said, okay, 100,000 an hour for that, for that. Well, I ended up staying in the bar for 2 hours. He takes me home. Guess what he charges me? 200,000. Oh, God, ye gods! Is there no justice? Even me. And when I say even me, I've been around the block. And they still got me. So I'm just trying to tell you, be careful with these taxis. These taxis in Cartagena, these suckers are relentless. They're going to get you. If you use them, they're going to get you somehow, some way, someday. All right, enough of that. I beat that into the ground. Also, don't ever bring up Pablo Escobar. Look, I'm not going to say anything else about it. Don't bring up Pablo Escobar. Okay. Cartagena water is safe to drink. The water is officially safe to drink here. Although I don't, because I'm not particularly brave. I don't mind brushing my teeth with it and having it in my alcohol, of course, and cooking with it. But your stomach just may not be used to the indigenous bacterium that exists here. And do you really want to chance a good portion of your visit by having a bad tummy ache? I've said this once before, but it deserves its own do's and don'ts. Be humble. I see it so much out there on those naked streets. Folks get drunk and they are just as cocky as they want to be. Maybe it's because in their country they're kind of broke, so they come to Colombia and they find that they're pretty well off, wearing a lot of jewelry. That behavior will catch up with you, one way or the other. And trust me, I see them get followed. I see them get followed because they become marks. There are a lot of expats living in Cartagena, and there are lots of tourists. But don't make the mistake of thinking that people want to speak English with you, or they won't be offended if you act like they'll understand you if you speak slower and louder. Again, see point number 18, be humble. Learn some Spanish. Hey, you can never have enough baby wipes. That's a freebie. If you want hot water, you are going to have to pay for it in some of the nicer Airbnbs. You're not going to get hot water in a hostel. Chances are very good you won't. Okay, consider the clothes you wear. I literally took 4 shirts with me, all of them long sleeve and collared. I had 6 shirts if you're including like undershirts. 1 pair of shorts that doubled as swimming trunks. I took 1 pair of blue jeans. I wore 1 pair of blue jeans on the plane, and I packed 1 pair of Colombia pants. And then the rest was I took a boatload of socks and underwear because when push comes to shove, if anything else, I can just throw them out. So consider what you're going to wear carefully, because chances are you may end up bringing more personal hygiene items than anything else. If you like big coffee cups, like I do, if you like a 20-ounce coffee cup, you bring a big coffee cup because you're not going to find one. Duty-free shop before you leave the airport, hey, you're not going to feel like picking up a couple of bottles of gin or rum or something, but I always pick up a couple of bottles of rum. Trust me, We went through that in the first 3 days, particularly when we went out to Rosario Islands, and I have a video about that later. Here's a freebie for you, and this is the last one. Number 25. Don't fall off the walls in Cartagena. Now, you would think you wouldn't have to tell that to anybody, but evidently it had to be told to me, because I was filming a wedding and I fell. I walked off of about a 6-foot wall, maybe about a 4.5-foot wall. I wasn't shook up until I saw where I could. I was already hurt enough, and luckily I caught myself with my hands, and so my face didn't. I didn't do a face plant, but where I saw where I could have fallen off from, it would have completely ruined the trip. So with that, I have a complete video detailing the 7 neighborhoods of Cartagena. Please watch that one. I think you'll find it very informational, and have a good time out there.